EchoCast log, stardate 03092020. This sounds like Star Trek. What the hell am I doing? No one's gonna believe me. Oh, well, who am I kidding? This is the Borderlands. If two whiny brats can claim they're literal gods and make a fuss with grape soda-infused demon babies, well, then anything's possible, I suppose. If anyone out there gets a hold of this EchoCast, be warned. My name is Vander. I received a distress call to Sanctuary from Ellie of all people. She was babbling on and on about further protections on the planet, even though the COV twins were defeated. As an aspiring vault hunter and mercenary, I took the job. Upon my arrival, I was greeted by that oh-so-lovely bust that you come to expect. A couple of really lousy flirty exchanges, as well as some really stale and rotten hand-me-down skag treats. Let's get to the point. Upon my arrival, I received my detail work and protection orders for the ship. She told me she needed to attend to other matters along with the other remaining vault hunters still on Pandora. She showed me to the cargo bay area where I could spend some leisure time, and then to my quarters, where no sooner as we arrive, Kat calls me as soon as I walk in to settle my belongings. Our final exchanges were made, and just like that, I was alone with the citizens of Sanctuary. The hours were long. Lots of boring, drunken slurs from the people laid out all over the ship. But at least I could hang out with Moxie on the occasion at her bar. Now that is something to look at, let me tell you. One night I got bored. Real bored. So bored that I decided I would go back down to the cargo bay for some leisure time. When I sat on the couch below the main staircase, I stumbled upon a couple of books. One of them actually stuck out to me. Upon reaching out to this dusty, old, moldy tome, a sort of blackened shard embedded the cover. It was pretty gnarly looking, if you ask me. The title was simple: The Journal of Deckard Cain. The cover had the faintest, almost artwork that looked like demons. Oh, this ought to be good, right? For the next 6 hours, I spent reading and reading about a world that couldn't possibly be true. Something crazy about the wars on heaven and hell, warriors fighting in the middle of it all because they were too pansy enough to deal with it themselves. Huh. Sounds kind of like us. Anyways, I got to a part where it talked about these immense beings of power. Something about prime evils. I scoffed as I read about these 3 prime evils and their siblings. This stuff was nuts! But I literally had 0 to do at that time, and everyone else was passed the hell out. So I finished it. Closing the book, I set it on my lap. I began to gaze at the black stone on the cover, and it looked like it was swirling inside, like some sort of energy was alive and pulsing. Without thinking, I took my hand and dragged it across the crystal, and in an instant cut my finger. Nursing the wound as the blood dripped from my finger onto the crystal, I slammed the book shut and threw it onto the floor in the cargo bay area. Man, that really hurt. And to make matters worse, no Band-Aids. Thanks, Ellie. What happened next is something I will never forget. The book began to flip through its pages, shaking violently, until it came to a singular page. The page then rips itself out, rolls up into an almost scroll, and disappearing within an instant, and boom! Before me appears a blue portal. At first nothing comes through, then a blinding red flash like J.J. Abrams directing a film shoots out and fills up the entire cargo bay area. A figure then appears, clothed in flame, ash, smoke. This figure was massive. Was this Satan? Is this really happening? The figure begins to walk closer to me. Shaking beyond belief, I can only say one thing. Who are you? With fire in his eyes, his bellowing voice fills the ship as if he was the ship itself.
I am Diablo, the greatest of prime evils. I am the Lord of Terror.
Welcome back to Immortal Forge Glamourcraft, your YouTube series dedicated to theory crafting, min-maxing, ripping and tearing, while looking damn good doing it. My name is the VanderForge, and in today's video, we bring you back into the world of Borderlands 3 with a terrifying new Glamourcraft build based on our beloved Beastmaster, DI4BLO. Some of the items and roles won't be top tier. Some of them will. What was important to me was that the items made sense and fit the mold of what it would look like bringing Blizzard's beloved villain Diablo into Borderlands 3. Let's get started. I gotta be honest, Flak, not my strong suit. Took a while for me to get used to him, his playstyles, and what he was capable of. So what was the answer? Research, lots and lots of it. Upon this research, I stumbled upon a YouTuber and Twitch streamer by the name of Abigail. This woman knows Flak inside and out. Not only does she have endless knowledge on the Beastmaster, she's pretty damn rad. She was a huge inspiration to this build. Twitch.tv/Abigail. Or look up Abigail on YouTube. Go check out her content. You will not regret it. Without further ado, I bring to you DI4BLO, a Rakk Attack Beastmaster build. This build helped me accomplish several of the elements that I thought would be fitting for the Lord of Terror's entrance onto Pandora. From minions, lots and lots of minions, to absurd amounts of fire melting enemies before him. This build ended up being an absolute monster to play, turning endless amounts of farming into giggle-screaming fits of glee. Top that off with some insane damage, and you've got yourself a damn good time ahead of you. This build revolves around the Master and Hunter skill trees. Let's check out some of those skills now. Starting off in the Master tree, we went with the following abilities. 3 points into Persistence Hunter, giving us increased gun damage and action skill duration. 2 points into Go for the Eyes, giving our pet increased critical hit damage. 4 points into Who Rescued Who, giving us health regeneration. 1 point into He Bites, giving our pet damage reflection. 5 points into Frenzy, giving us increased gun damage per Frenzy stack. 1 point into Mutated Defenses, giving us health regeneration and damage reduction. 5 points into Barbaric Yop, giving our pet increased bonuses. And finally, 3 points into Pack Tactics, giving Flak and his pet increased damage and maximum health. Now, on to the next tree. For the Hunter tree, we went with the following abilities. 5 points into Interplanetary Stalker, giving us increased damage versus specific enemy types when killing an enemy. 3 points into Leave No Trace, giving us a chance to add ammo to our stash upon a critical hit. 1 point into Second Intention, giving us increased reload speed upon killing an enemy. This skill is also furthered upon scoring a critical hit. 5 points into Hunter's Eye, giving us increased critical hit damage, armor damage, and damage reduction versus specific types of enemies. 1 point into Head Count, giving us cooldown time reduction chance. 3 points into Big Game, giving us increased Hunter skill duration and Hunter skill effects. 3 points into the Most Dangerous Game, giving us increased gun damage, critical hit damage, handling, pet damage upon killing a badass enemy. 1 point into Galactic Shadow, giving us increased critical hit damage and a chance for our enemy not to attack us. 5 points into Grim Harvest, giving us increased gun damage, action skill duration, and pet damage. And finally, Megavore, giving us increased critical hit chance when firing on multiple parts of our enemies. Now, onto our pets, action skill, and augments. For the pet, we went with the Spider and Scorcher, giving us increased health regeneration and elemental damage. This was a major key to doing absurd amounts of elemental damage. The best part? The Maiden of Lust herself happens to be a large spider demon. With Flak always saying things like, "I've missed you, girl," I thought it was fitting to name our pet Sedea. Apparently, Diablo wasn't finished with her after the Nephilim vanquished her back to the fiery hells where she came from.
If toughness becomes an issue, I recommend going Spider and Countess for increased health regeneration and damage reduction. For our action skill, we went with Rakk Attack. Summoning a portal before him, Diablo unleashes a swarm of fiery bats at his enemies, while dealing some pretty nasty fire damage. This build has us spamming this constantly, really bringing out that feeling that Diablo himself was summoning minions from the fiery hells below to vanquish those in his path. For augments, we went with Falconer's Feast, giving us some much needed lifesteal, and Flak and Load, increasing our flak count released by an additional 2 flaks. More minions, more damage. Now, on to the tasty stuff, the gear. Items and guns for this build can be a vast array of things, depending upon the modifiers of your class mod and artifact. The guns and mods for this build are some of the items I thought would fit best if the greatest of primevals was treading the terrain of Pandora. Keep in mind, this is as much of a theory craft as it is focused on glamour. Let's take a look. For our first gun, we went with the Fire Sail Long Musket, anointed with enemies damaged by Rakk Attack take 100% increased damage for a short time. This gun is pure fire. Pure, decimating, flesh-melting fire. Diablo is literally the greatest of primevals in hell. This has to be the most fun close-range weapon to use to eviscerate your enemies. This gun can be found by taking on Glamour at Conrad's Hold on Pandora, or as a world drop. Did I mention this gun has lots of fire? Oh, and when you reload it, the gun becomes a little mobile minion too. More minions, more damage. For our second gun, we went with the Ion Laser, anointed with enemies damaged by Rakk Attack take 100% increased damage for a short time. Our variant switches between fire and shock damage. This gun is pure mayhem. Being able to fire a constant beam of elements to pulsing trigger shots for projectile damage, this gun gave Flak that beam attack feel that Diablo would launch on his enemies in Diablo 3. Switching to shock is also a nice shield melter. Location for this weapon can be found by farming Evil St. Lawrence or as a world drop specifically to the Mad Moxie's Heist on Handsome Jackpot DLC. This farm is definitely worth it. For our third gun, we went with the Breath of the Dying, anointed with, after using Rakk Attack, gained 50% critical hit damage for a short time. This gun is literally a Diablo-themed gun, specifically Diablo 2 Lords of Destruction. The red text reads, Vex, Hell, El, Eld, Zod, F. These are literal runes from D2. This gun does insane armor melting, and the splash damage it can cause mobs is out of this world. This gun can be found by farming the Blinding Banshee on Desolation's Edge, or as a general world drop. This is definitely a must-have for this build. Need some armor damage for those takedown runs? Diablo 2 has got you covered. For our fourth gun, we went with the Stark Krakatoa, anointed with enemies damaged by Rakk Attack take 100% increased damage for a short time. With the massive buffs going around lately in Borderlands 3, our weapon here is no exception to that statement. This gun is top tier fire damage, literally almost hitting a base damage of 10k. Aiming down sights or no scoping, this gun just deletes. Some people don't like the charge time on weapons. Myself, I don't mind them. They help me center for that sweet crit spot. This gun can be found by taking on the Rampager at the Forgotten Basilica or as a general world drop. Get this gun, you won't regret it. For our shield, we went with the Contingency Stopgap, anointed with on action skill end, gain 50% bonus corrosive damage with weapons for 10 seconds. Our variant gives us temporary immunity as well as health and shield boosters. I love this shield for the fact that it dropped the boosters. Kinda made it feel like I was picking up health globes in Diablo. This is a must-have for the toughness purposes. We definitely need it in this build. This shield can be found by confronting El Dragon Jr. in the Jacob's Estate or as a general world drop. Do yourself a favor, farm Grave Ward for this one or a similar variant. You'll thank me later. For our grenade mod, we went with the Generator Transfusion Tracker, anointed with on action skill end, gain 50% fire damage with weapons for 10 seconds. Choosing different action skill and elements between shield and grenade is very important in this build. You cannot stack two of the same element. This grenade is yet another source to regain health or shields from enemies in tight situations. You can find this grenade by taking on the power troopers at the Atlas headquarters or as a general world drop. Keep in mind, there's 5 power troopers, improving your chances of getting it quite nicely. For our class mod, we went with the Rakk pack. Whenever Flax Rakk hits an enemy, they split into 2 more Rakks that seek out enemies. For purposes of the skill tree, our variant gives us +2 to Pack Tactics and +3 to Grim Harvest. Our secondary modifiers include +26% weapon damage, +16% Malawan weapon fire rate, and +26% Jacob's weapon reload speed. I won't lie, this is the hardest farm of the build. It drops from the Tink of the Cunning at the Trial of Cunning Proving Grounds or from Wotan in the Takedown on Malawan raid. Don't farm Wotan for this one. Do the trial. I personally find it a more relaxing farm, but once you land it and fire out that Rakk attack, your enemies will vanish in no time. And finally, for our artifact, we went with the Last Stand Auto Idol. Toughness, toughness, and more toughness. This artifact grants temporary immunity when health drops below 50% and synergizes very well with the stopgap, as the stopgap activates when the shield breaks. Not to mention, we get lifesteal at 19% of max health when killing an enemy. Our secondary modifiers are +44 fight for your life duration, +23% action skill cooldown rate, and 28% melee damage. The fight for your life duration and action skill cooldown rate is very welcomed in this setup. You can acquire this by taking on Tyreen the Destroyer herself at the Destroyer's Rift or as a general world drop. Either or is a viable farming option. This artifact is a definite must-have. Now, on to some additional weapons and items that further enhance the build. For our first additional weapon, we went with the Execute, anointed with grants an extra charge of Rakk attack. Okay, I admit it. I'm obsessed with this gun. I can't get over its ability to debuff enemies. It was a staple in Mega Man Zane, and it's become a fun tool in this one as well. Being able to debuff enemies up to 200% and then switching to a main damaging gun and watching health bars melt is so damn satisfying. You can find this gun by taking on General Trant on Necrodefeo as a Mayhem 4 exclusive. Please note that there is no anointment needed for this gun. For further description of this gun, check out my Mega Man Zane video in the weapons section. You can find the timestamps in the video description as well. For our second additional weapon, we went with the Wedding Invitation. Anointed with enemies damaged by Rakk attack, take 100% increased damage for a short time. This is one of those sweet rewards you got for completing the objectives in the Broken Hearts limited time Valentine's event. It's a hard one to come by for sure, and it is definitely not required for this build. Trust me when I say, the Stark Krakatoa does wonders. But if you manage to get a hold of this, or already have it, do yourself a favor. Aim down sights, plant a headshot with enemies surrounding, and watch heads pop. The ricochet damage is unreal, and I've had a lot of fun with this gun. If you're looking for a similar effect, grab a Stagecoach shotgun or an iron-willed monocle sniper rifle with the same anointment. You won't regret it. And finally, for our third additional piece, we actually go with a class mod, a Giant Slayer Bounty Hunter to be exact. Flak has a 3% chance to activate any purchased hunt kill skills when dealing gun damage. Furthermore, bosses are now treated as humans, beasts, and robotics for Flak's hunt skills. For the skills in this tree, our variant gives us +1 to Frenzy, +2 to Hunter's Eye, and +2 to the most dangerous game. Our secondary modifiers are +18% weapon critical damage, +25% weapon damage, and +45% Jacob's weapon critical damage. This class mod is unreal, and if you have one with similar or your own personal modifiers, I recommend using this when bossing. You can acquire this by taking on the Hag of Fervor in the Trial of Fervor Proving Grounds or as a general world drop. This is definitely a farm I recommend yet again taking on Grave Word instead. It's a lot faster, and I found they drop more frequently. Definitely not required, but if you got one, slap that bad boy on and do some tasty damage. Now on to the subject that melts my heart to no end, the Glamour. You know, I was really curious if I could pull this off. I mean, it's Diablo, the Lord of Terror, the prime evils of evils and more fire and evils and stuff. Could it be done? Hell yes, it can. And here's just what we did to bring Diablo to life with our beloved Beastmaster. For the headpiece, we went with the Shaman. Skull face? Check. Big horns? Check. Ability to color the hair to look like fire? Check. When I put this together and gave a final satisfied gaze upon his face, I literally screamed. You should have heard it. This was truly the powerful face to make the statement that Diablo was roaming Pandora and nothing would stand in his way. Well, except maybe his pet. For the skin, we went with Teal Appeal. When I started messing with the colors of this Glamour, I screamed more. I found out that a lot of the body, accent pieces, and hair could actually be made to give a magma glow effect. This was the rock that sealed the tomb for the Glamour. Other pieces being colored black with a main red overtone gave it that powerful, fiery, demonic feel. Even his backpack looks like it would make Mephisto hella jealous. Yep, damn it, that's another dad joke. For the color tones, this was super simple, but I didn't realize it at first. Messing with the colors, I was literally driving myself crazy until I did the simplest of things. I put the primary, secondary, and tertiary colors to black on red. When it was complete, I had a red, black, and orange fiery flak before me. These colors also brought out the best accent and flame colors on the Spider Ant Scorcher to fit the theme perfect. And finally, for our weapon skin, we went with the Black Dragon. This skin was just pure and crisp. Every single gun I used for this build looked like a black shining gem of absolute chaos. A real skin to finalize the Diablo Flak Glamourcraft build as a whole. Now, on to some brief descriptions with mobbing and bossing. When it comes to facing the endless hordes the game decides to throw at us, or that big boss at the end of the level, there is a lot of flexibility here. It really comes down to matching the elements you have to your needs, close to mid-range targets or far away ones. This build does wonders with the newly buffed sniper rifles for those long-range fights, but in a lot of cases, mid to close range fights, or just what you feel like decimating with. For the purposes of this build, our shield, grenade, and artifact core we talked about previously will remain the same. For mobbing, we have the following equipped: Fire Sail Long Musket, Ion Laser, Breath of the Dying, Stark Krakatoa, and specifically the Rakk Pack class mod. When facing mobs, this build excels in taking carefully placed shots. Launch your Rakk attack to activate action skill and elements, grab a mid-range gun, and begin laying down fire. You can also play it slow and get some nice time snipes in. Make sure to keep spamming Rakk attack when it's available, or when you feel comfortable in even spaced timing. When mobs are in packs that are close together, Breath of the Dying does wonders. For that close mob that decides to get into your face, fire Sail Long Musket O'Clock. In huge crossfire situations, make sure to throw out a grenade for a chance at either shield or health regeneration. Be sure to keep an eye out for health or shield boosters from your shield. This build can actually be tanky if you choose to play it at a cautious pace. We do not excel at speed, but rather some tankiness and destruction, kinda how I view Diablo. For bossing, we have the following equipped: Execute, Ion Laser, Breath of the Dying, Stark Krakatoa, and for the class mod, we switch to the Bounty Hunter. Launch a Rakk attack, begin to launch Execute assaults, stack up to 4 times or until you are comfortable, switch to the Stark Krakatoa or preferred gun, and begin laying down your assault on the target. Remember, you crit in a lot of places with this build via Megavore, so Execute does wild things here. Keep an eye out for those health and shield boosters. They make a bigger difference than most realize. Rinse and repeat until you are standing on the carcass of your vanquished foe. Be sure to mix and match your action skill and elements on your shield and grenade to min-max what will be most effective to your target. This applies for both bossing and mobbing. Overall, this build solved a lot of the toughness issues I was facing. It also gave me a constant spam of action skills to take advantage of anointments on a consistent and timed basis. This setup is capable of all Mayhem 4 True Vault Hunter mode content, Slaughter Shaft, regular takedown on Malawan, and with some patience, true takedown on Malawan. At the time of this recording, my Guardian rank has increased to 525, so take that into consideration for true takedown. So, with the finale of the second Glamourcraft video, what's on your mind? Did you like the video? Did you like the story behind it? Did you like the addition of the skit to really bring out that VanderForge fire you've all come to love and enjoy in the live stream? Let us know what you enjoyed most in the comments below. A huge metal fist and shout out to my Dark Forces stream teammate and brother Death Metal Kyle for letting us use his rip and tear tunage on the channel. Totally go check out his Bandcamp and throw up a rock fist while you're at it. Right, Shannon? Speaking of ShansImmortal, shout out to her for taking the time to keep improving her skills as the editor for the channel's videos. She is absolutely killing it. If you liked what we brought you today, please be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to keep up on upcoming content to the channel. We got a lot more in store. Feel free to check me out on my live stream at twitch.tv/VanderForge for your late night shenanigans, blaring music, and obnoxious banter. Discord always has the Forge burning 24/7. From Pokemon to Borderlands and things in between, we got a community all over the place. Why not join us? I also got me a Twitter too. I tweet about important things in my life. Fun things, you know. Like when I rip major ass in the middle of a Walmart. Totally follow it. Thank you all once again for your time and checking out what we do as content creators. I've been the VanderForge with Immortal Forge Glamourcraft. Thanks for watching. Oh, and remember,
Only you can forge your destiny into reality.